Joining us for this Wednesday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 19th day of January 2022. I'm David Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first graphic, or second graphic, we'll show here the hazardous weather graphic. Starting out down here in the southeast, there's a snow advisory out for over toward Hyder, not Heidelberg, I almost said Heidelberg, over for Hyder for 6 to 10 inches of snow expected to fall, could possibly fall there tonight. So good snowfall going on down there. Otherwise, heading up to the north, now the orange area there, or the watch area, that's for a winter storm, or actually a blizzard watch is out for the western Arctic coast, and that kicks into effect on Friday. And looking for blizzard whiteout conditions with winds gusting to 45 miles an hour to take place starting Friday, probably lasting into Saturday, the way it looks at this point in time. Otherwise, eastern Arctic coast there, looking at wind chill advisory for tonight for 45 to 55 degree below zero wind chills in that area. Also a wind chill advisory for the northwest coast, coastal areas of the Seward Peninsula, Shishmaref, and the Bering Strait coast, as well as St. Lawrence Island, for wind chills of 40 to 50 below zero. And also a wind chill advisory there for eastern Norton Sound into the Lotto Hills for the same thing, for breezy conditions, and that'll push wind chills anywhere from 40 to 50 degrees below zero. And then a snow advisory is out for the central interior there, upper Yukon Valley, Yukon Flats, over to the Koyukuk Valley, and then down to Tanana. And that's out actually for tomorrow through Friday. And that's snow and blowing snow, reducing visibility to less than a half mile at times, with winds gusting to 45 miles an hour. May pick up about an inch of new snow, but that, with the snow already on the ground, will be blowing around in those gusty winds, and that's what will be reducing visibility, especially over summits and higher terrain. And that's about it for the watches, warnings, and advisories. So moving on to the satellite imagery, you can see a weakening frontal boundary really washing out here as the frame rolls on. Southern Bering Sea there, mostly south of the Pribilofs, and another mass of moisture lifting north up across, or actually between Nikolsky and Atka, really not too significant there. And you can also see off to the southeast interior moisture streaming north and northeastward in across south central Alaska, anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of snow falling. Cook Inlet area, Kenai Peninsula, some areas could pick up more, and other areas less. But heavier snow in the Copper River Basin along the Copper River Valley. Gulkena, 4 to 6 inches of snow in the last 12 hours, carrying moderate snow into the afternoon, into the mid-afternoon hours today. And then that's spreading northward, so probably looking at some pretty good snowfall on the southern slopes of the eastern Alaska Range, say Nabesna, and then lighter amounts north of the mountains there, but still quite an area of light snow in the Tanana Valley, 40-mile country northward to about Eagle. And then also some snow showers, areas of light snow out over the western interior from a weak trough over in that area. And then the storm system and front pushing rain and wind into the southeast coast today, with about a half inch falling in the last 12 hours at Petersburg, one of the heavier amounts there. And then Heidelberg seeing winds gusting to 45 miles an hour out of the south today. Juneau picked up 2 to 4 inches of snow, give or take there, with the temperatures still cold enough for snow, obviously, but rain down to the south. Petersburg, Wrangell, on down, Sitka, all reporting rain, except over toward Misty Fjords and the Hyder area. And then kind of a widespread area of areas of snow over a good portion of the central and southeast interior. Again, a little more on the moderate to heavy side in the Copper River Basin. Otherwise, McGrath picked up about an inch of snow, and 1 to 3 inches across south central Alaska during the late morning and mid-afternoon hours today. And then that tapers off as you head west. And then pretty gusty northeast winds, 40 miles an hour. Kivalina had a peak wind gust today. Tuxuk Bay had peak wind gust of 54 miles per hour to the north. This cold air continues to pour south and southwestward from the interior into the Bering Sea there. Temperatures down to near 20 now, northeast winds of 35 miles an hour over the Pribilof Islands. Otherwise, not much weather associated with that washing out frontal boundary there just north of the Aleutians. And precipitation lies really light with that thing, and a little bit heavier over the panhandle areas, as I mentioned, with the snow and rain there. About a third of an inch of water equivalent precipitation in the Yakutat area, and winds gusting out of the north, Seward, to 36 miles an hour. Well, again, the high-end gale force winds along and off the coast of the panhandle, that'll weaken tonight considerably into a trough, the frontal boundary itself, as low pressure moves in over the northern panhandle. So winds will become light, and look for mixed precipitation over the northern southeast coast, and there'll stay rain over the central and southern areas. And conditions become a little more showery for the North Gulf Coast. Periods of snow heaviest this evening, Copper River Basin into the southeast interior, eastern Tanana Valley, upper 40-mile country, upper Tanana Valley and 40-mile country. Maybe an inch or so additional north of the Alaska Range. Could pick up a couple more inches there for the Copper River Basin areas over toward the Wrangels. Otherwise, snow ending from east to west gradually, and then some snow showers with a lingering trough over the western interior there along the lower Yukon River Valley area out into possibly Norton Sound. And low pressure edging northward there tightens a gradient, and look for increasing winds and rain for the eastern Aleutians Alaska Peninsula tonight. But light winds under Arctic high pressure, lows in the clear wind-sheltered areas, anywhere from 40 to 45 below zero, milder in the windier, cloudier areas, of course. And then for tomorrow, again, the trough with southwest flow keeps it unsettled over the southeast coast, but rainfall amounts won't be too heavy, as well as snowfall amounts. They'll be really restricted to higher elevations up to the north. Chance of snow showers or so, or flurries, Copper River Basin, Cook Inlet, but really starting to get into a break ahead of that next system moving northward there. The next frontal boundary, big push of warm air coming up over the northeast Pacific and into the Gulf of Alaska. Trough keeps snow showers over the western and southwest interior, as well as cold air out over the Bering Sea on those northeast winds, and then stays windy western Arctic coast, northwest coast, and the western Brooks Range along mountain areas, especially through the passes, but dry conditions. And then moving on to the outlook for Friday, big push of warm air, south to north flow. You can see low pressure moving to Unalaska Island, so look for rain, possibly moderate, briefly heavy at times for the Alaska Peninsula on the Pacific side of the terrain there. Showers for Kodiak Island, mild temperatures, and wind and rain on the increase over the panhandle ahead of the front, with the warm front pushing northward. And precipitation and gusty Chinook-type warmer winds across all of southern Alaska into the Copper River Basin. And winter storm watch, snow blowing, snow developing with tightening gradient over the western Arctic coast. Lows tonight, 25 to 45 below over the North Slope and Arctic coastal areas. Kotzebue could see another 40 below low temperature tonight or by tomorrow morning. Otherwise below zero north of the Alaska Range, 0 to 20 south of the mountains, 30 to 40 for the Panhandle, upper 20s Kodiak Island, lower to mid 30s out over the Aleutians, down to 9 for the Pribilof Islands. Cold air continues to move southward there and southwestward over the Bering Sea. Highs tomorrow just in the mid-teens for the Pribilofs, otherwise near 40 for the Fox Islands, upper 30s or mid 30s to lower 40s for the Alaska Peninsula. Look for highs in the mid-20s, south central Alaska, to lower 30s around Homer, mid-30s Seldovia, upper 30s for Kodiak, and upper 30s to mid-40s for the southeast coast, staying below zero over the northern interior, coldest over the North Slope. And for lows the following morning, 20 to 40 below North Slope Arctic coast, 5 below to 5 above for the central interior, but below zero all the way out to the coastline of the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta coast. Again, a shade below 10 for the Pribilofs, upper 20s for the Aleutians, and mid-20s south central Alaska. Pretty mild in the Panhandle, mid-30s to lower 40s for your lows, followed by highs 40s to near 50 out along the central coast. And warmer south central Alaska, lower 30s in the Susitna Valley to lower 40s over the southern Kenai Peninsula, and above zero in the central interior, but staying below zero from the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast. Out west, still in the teens for your highs for the Pribilofs, lower 30s in the Aleutians.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Some marginal VFR along the Brooks Range, otherwise looking pretty good out along the Arctic coast. Marginal VFR up toward Dead Horse eastward to Kaktovik, Barter Island. And then some areas of marginal VFR along with some areas of VFR, central interior, mostly VFR, northwest coast through the Bering Strait, Seward Peninsula, into the northern Bering Sea and down along the southwest coast, with some IFR extending up from Togiak Bay and Dillingham into the southwest mountains, maybe southern Kuskokwim Valley, and IFR covering all the Bering Sea, St. George Island southward, all the Aleutians, all the Alaska Peninsula up to southwest Kodiak Island. More IFR this late tonight, or for tonight into after midnight for northern Cook Inlet, Mananuska-Susitna Valley, North Gulf Coast, Copper River Basin, all the Panhandle, Eastern Gulf of Alaska, breaking out to VFR for the southern Kenai Peninsula. And then for the afternoon, we've got IFR, Eastern North Gulf Coast, all the Panhandle, St. Lawrence Island, Pribilofs into the southwest interior, Bristol Bay, Togiak Bay, Dillingham, and looks like marginal VFR, say around King Salmon up to Iliamna Lake, Cook Inlet marginal, Kenai Peninsula marginal, IFR for Kamishak, Kachemak Bays. That extends all the way out to the eastern Aleutians, becoming VFR for Adak and the southwest Bering Sea. And for the morning on Friday, we've got a fair amount of VFR, central and northeast interior, some marginal VFR in scattered areas of IFR, North Slope, Arctic coast, southeast interior, as well as the Seward Peninsula, Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island. Narrow band of IFR across the Pribilofs, meeting up with a little bit wider band there from the Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula, across Kodiak Island into southern Cook Inlet and the eastern slopes of the southern Alaska Range. And then for Bristol or for Prince William Sound IFR, same thing for the North Gulf Coast, eastern half of the Panhandle IFR, western half marginal. And for afternoon on Friday, IFR, Panhandle, all the North Gulf Coast, IFR for South Central Alaska, Prince William Sound, Kodiak Island, Fox Islands, up grazing the Pribilofs into the southwest coast, all of Bristol Bay, IFR, maybe some downsloping marginal VFR there along the Aleutian Range up to the Kamishak Gap, Iliamna Lake area. And then good VFR from Yukon River northward to the Arctic coast, maybe some patchy marginal VFR in the central north slope out toward Wainwright, maybe Point Lay, but not too bad. And then good conditions, VFR, southwest Bering Sea from Matka Island westward to the Komodorskis and northward to St. Matthew Island. Passes Anatuvik, VFR tomorrow, same forecast for Adigan, looking really good there. VFR flying conditions, and Lake Clark and Merrill. Marginal VFR throughout the day at times, same forecast for rainy. Windy though, VFR, the way it looks at this point in time. Isabel, VFR northern entrance, otherwise marginal VFR, especially south. And south entrance of Mentasta could be marginal, but otherwise looking pretty good VFR through the pass and out the north entrance. Tanita, marginal VFR to start, becoming VFR probably during the latter part of the morning hours through the afternoon. Portage, marginal VFR. Chilkoot and White, pretty socked in with IFR throughout most of the day. And for the freezing levels, at the surface, just north of the Fox Islands and all of the Aleutians, at the on the south side of this surface freezing level, just east of Kodiak there, 2,000 feet in over the Panhandle. Icing, look for isolated moderate rime or mixed icing for the southeast coast, Yakutat on down to Queen Charlotte's, and then some heavier, considerable moderate rime icing likely pushing into Kodiak Island with the next surge of moisture, and some more of that out over the western Alaska Peninsula to Unalaska Island. Jet stream, southwest flow just south of, or just east of Kodiak and south of the North Gulf Coast up to 135 knots, turns northwest across the Panhandle about 105, 110 knots at 9,000 feet. Southwest, 35 to 40 knot winds there, starting out 50 knots there just south of the Alaska Peninsula, diminishing as they head in across southern Alaska, turning east 50 knots across the Bering Strait, 3,000 feet, 55 knots southeast winds with that low south of the Alaska Peninsula. into Iliamna area, and also east 55 knots there over the Kobuk Valley, and northeast 55 for the Fox Islands. And turbulence-wise, looking at considerable moderate chop in areas, surface to 5,000 feet there at Tanana Valley up to the northwest interior, and also some moderate chop, Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay.
It's kind of hard to explain how important weather is to our job. I mean, it really affects everything we do.
In 2018, NOAA launches the GOES-S satellite, which takes its place in orbit as GOES-17. Working together with GOES-16, the two new geostationary weather satellites will provide constant watch over the United States and the Western Hemisphere, from the west coast of Africa all the way to New Zealand, helping monitor severe storms, wildfires, and daily weather patterns. Since its launch, NOAA's GOES-16 satellite has already demonstrated its critical capability for keeping our nation weather ready. Throughout the active 2017 hurricane season, GOES-16 delivered imagery with detail and clarity never achieved before, with 4 times greater resolution than previous NOAA satellites, and delivered this imagery faster than ever before, helping forecasters predict the path of a storm and where and when it will intensify. These accurate and timely forecasts allowed for emergency managers to prepare for evacuations, map flood areas, and save lives.
So the weather matters. The weather matters before the weather happens, and the weather matters after the event happens, because what we're able to do to prepare, allocate resources, provide information to the public through the media beforehand, and what we're able to do afterwards, how and when the waters are going to recede, so we know we can get vehicles with life-saving food and shelter equipment down a particular highway. All of that depends on the forecast.
In the GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to provide critical data for the westernmost United States, Alaska, and Hawaii.
We're talking about getting data updates in just seconds, so we can quickly spot wildfires and closely monitor the wind direction and their intensity. The crispness of the data coming in at a faster rate will also help with fog forecasts. We can see the moment the strata starts to develop or when it starts to move out.
Like GOES-16, GOES-17 carries a suite of advanced instruments, including tools for sophisticated earth sensing, lightning detecting, solar imaging, and space weather monitoring. As an equal partner in the sky, GOES-17 will expand coverage of the advanced baseline imager technology across the Pacific Ocean, allowing meteorologists and local officials to see severe weather systems developing in real time.
So instead of seeing something, say, this large, that as you zoom in actually gets kind of blurry, you're actually going to see something that is much more detailed.
In its GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to monitor conditions in the western U.S. like wildfires, coastal fog, and atmospheric rivers when storms from the Pacific dump heavy rain and snow over the western U.S. GOES-17 will have a major impact on fighting wildfires in California. Up-to-the-minute information in crisp detail allows forecasters to spot fires faster than ever before, even before the first 911 calls come in, and to better track and predict the path of large, dynamic, and dangerous fires.
It's amazing to see what we can get and at the level of detail and the speed that we can get the information down into the ground that makes our decision making way more accurate.
With a view of the Pacific Ocean, GOES-17 will also provide a critical eye over shipping lanes vital to the U.S. economy, protecting cargo and passenger vessels from dangerous ocean storms. GOES-17 will also provide a high-definition view over Alaska, resulting in better weather forecasts and improved monitoring of sea ice, wildfires, and volcanic ash. The advanced baseline imager on GOES-17 can distinguish between clouds, sea ice, and snow cover, a critical need during Alaska's dark, cloudy winter months. GOES-17's geostationary lightning mapper monitors lightning flashes, including the in-cloud lightning most prevalent in severe storms, helping forecasters determine when a storm is forming, intensifying, and becoming more dangerous. Thanks to GOES-17, emergency managers will be equipped with more accurate weather predictions and faster warnings, providing a real impact, saving lives, and protecting infrastructure. Watching over Earth from 22,300 miles above, GOES-S will provide vital data to our weather-ready nation.
Hi, I'm JPSS. I'm a high-tech weather satellite that orbits our planet. I do something called a polar orbit. I circle the Earth from North Pole to South Pole, over and over, while the Earth spins. While I do that, I get lots of information about what's going on around the globe. I watch storms, clouds, and rain. I take the temperature of the ocean, measure air quality, ozone health, and take pictures of the land and sea. This information is used for all kinds of things. It helps us take care of our coasts and oceans and all the amazing things that live there. It helps us monitor harmful weather events like floods and droughts and measure the health of the environment. Most importantly, it helps us predict weather 3 to 7 days in the future. That means I can be a big help ahead of storms, where future warnings are important. I send information to the National Weather Service. They use the information to create forecasts. The forecasts are shared with people all over the country to help prepare for weather emergencies. So you look to the sky and wave. I'll be flying by.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back to today's sea ice analysis. Ice continuing to spread south and southwestward, with the thinner ice just still a ways north, but getting closer into St. Paul, and ice will continue to expand southwestward for the next couple of days. Moving on to coastal water forecasts. Southeast coast, south winds 20 knots, seas 11 to 15 feet, and for the inside waters, clearance straight, south 15, possible gusts to 35 knots. Otherwise, the central and northern inner channels, inside water areas, southeast of 15 with 3-foot seas. Outlook for Friday, increase in the winds along the coast, also over the inside channels, clearance straight coming up to small craft advisory level winds, south 25, 5-foot seas. Southeast 25 for Stevens Passage with 5-foot seas, and Lynn Canal Glacier Bay, southeast at 20, seas 4 feet. South coast, winds will be south at 30 knots, seas just under 20 feet, and the central coast, gale warning, south 35 knots, seas around 20 feet. And then the north coast, edge it back down to 30 knots from the south. Prince William Sound, east winds 15 knots with 3-foot seas. Northern Cook Inlet, northeast at 20. Small craft advisory south of for southern Cook Inlet, south of the Forelands, northeast at 30 knots, and gale warnings for Kamishak Bay, northeast 35 knots. Barren Islands, east winds 30 knots, seas 9 feet, and east winds 25 knots for the western North Gulf Coast. Around Middleton Island, though, off to the east, winds will be west at 20 knots with 8-foot seas. Prince William Sound, light east winds of 15 knots. Those will increase to small craft advisory for Prince William Sound on Friday. Winds increased to 25 knots from the southeast. Otherwise, northern Cook Inlet, small craft brisk wind advisories, northern Cook Inlet, northeast 25. Gale warning south of the Forelands, 35 knot northeast winds. East 40 for Kamishak Bay. Barren Islands, southeast winds 35 knots, seas 18 feet, and southeast at 30 knots for the western North Gulf Coast. Eastern North Gulf Coast, good gales, southeast 40 knots, blowing right across Middleton Island. And for Kodiak Island, east-northeast winds 35 knots, good for gale warnings for the day Thursday. And the Alaska Peninsula, gale warnings also east-northeast at 35 knots, seas around 10 feet. Bristol Bay, small craft brisk wind advisories for Bristol Bay, northeast at 25. And gale warnings continue Kodiak Island, but direction changes. South 35 knots for the day Friday, seas up to 20 feet. And southern or Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula, small craft advisory, south winds 25 knots. Bering Sea side, northeast 25 knots. Bristol Bay, southeast at 25 knots. And for Fox Islands, eastern Aleutians, gale warnings, northeast winds 35 to 40 knots, seas around 15 feet. About the same for Adak and Atka, northeast winds 35 knots. And then from Amchitka westward to Shemya, winds will be northeast at 30 knots. And for Friday, those drop off out west there, Shemya to Kiska, northeast winds coming down to 15 knots. And 20-knot winds for Amchitka Island, small craft advisories, Adak and Atka, north winds 30 knots. Gale warnings for the Fox Islands, north winds 25 to 35 knots, seas 13 to 18 feet. Southwest coast brisk wind advisory, south of Nunivak Island for Thursday, north winds 25 knots. Small craft advisories for the Pribilofs, northeast at 30 knots, and north winds 30 knots for St. Lawrence Island. And for the day on Friday, St. Lawrence Island, north winds 30 knots. Brisk wind advisories also for the southwest coast, north to northwest at 25. Gale warnings for the Pribilof Islands, north winds 35 knots. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, west winds 10 to 15 knots, northwest at 10 knots for the central coast. West side, northeast 20, and then brisk wind advisories from Cape Beaufort to Wales for north to northeast winds at 30 knots. And for Friday, brisk wind advisories, Wales to Cape Thompson, northeast 25, and for gale warnings from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, northeast 35 knots, and northeast 30 knots for the western Arctic coast, northeast 20 for the central coast. Brisk wind advisories, east-northeasterlies at 25 knots for the east side. For tonight, Arctic high pressure and over the north slope keeps it well below zero, especially in the clear areas, dropping 40 to 45 below in the clear areas outside the windy areas. So quite a range in the overnight low temperatures there. Snow showers western interior, snow lingering through the night over the eastern interior but becoming lighter and stays unsettled over the panhandle through tomorrow. And warmer air pushes into southern Alaska on Friday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.